Imagine a wedding day, everything is supposed to be perfect. The flowers are flawless, the lighting is flawless. The guests are smiling like they're watching a fairy tale. The vows are clear, almost too polished, and the applause comes exactly when it should. From the outside, it looks flawless. But look at the person standing at the altar. Not the smile, look at the eyes behind it. Inside that smile is a quiet kind of suppression. It's not peaceful. It's the sound of a rational mind holding down a screaming heart. We were raised on a story. Love first, marriage second, happiness guaranteed. That story is beautiful, but for millions of people, marriage never started with love. It started with survival, stability, the fear of being alone, which can feel heavier than the fear of never being loved. That's the hidden tragedy. From the outside, you look like you made it. From the inside, you feel like you disappeared. So why do smart, self-aware people still choose this? Why do they bind their lives to someone who brings no real joy? And what does it do to the mind when it's forced to live a daily lie for years? Today we're exploring the psychology of loveless marriages, not to judge, but to understand the silent forces that pull people in and the quiet emotional price they pay. Because sometimes the loneliest feeling in the world isn't being alone. It's being married and still completely unseen. Historically, marriage was never about romance. It was a contract for survival. Land, status, protection, the next generation. Love as the main requirement is a modern luxury. Even in 2026, the ancient survival instinct is still running deep. Psychology shows several strong forces that push people toward loveless unions. One of the most potent is anuptophobia, the fear of staying single. When those social deadlines approach and the right person hasn't shown up, panic quietly rewrites your standards. You stop chasing happiness and start minimizing risk. Suddenly, you're not looking for a soulmate. You're looking for a candidate. Someone stable. Someone safe. Someone whose family would approve. The math becomes transactional. I may not feel fireworks, but at least I'm not alone. Safety can feel like a drug, especially if you grew up in chaos or emotional neglect. Once you've survived in survival mode, romance stops feeling necessary. What you crave is relief, an anchor against the world. A stable partner doesn't feel like a love story. It feels like a fortress. Another trap is the compatibility trap. You meet someone who shares your values on money, politics, family, faith. You work as a team, rarely fight. Everything makes logical sense. The mind bargains with the heart. Love will grow. But it often doesn't. It simply fades. Here's the part most people never talk about. Many people don't marry without love because they're shallow or desperate. They do it because their nervous system was trained, sometimes since childhood, to mistake certain feelings for love. That early blueprint is called attachment. So when adulthood arrives, people aren't always choosing partners based on passion. They're choosing partners based on what feels familiar. Someone with anxious attachment may feel a stable partner is actually a gift. Someone with avoidant attachment may choose someone they don't fully love because true closeness feels too risky. Trauma can make the brain mislabel signals. Drama as chemistry, anxiety as attraction, stability as boredom. You end up choosing what feels safe and calling it love until the wedding forces the truth. One of the most dangerous things about settling is that it rarely looks like settling at first. It looks like maturity, peace, responsibility. So how do you know you're not just protecting yourself by accepting someone who reduces your fear instead of someone you actually desire? Here are 7 quiet signs you may be settling. Relief feels stronger than excitement. Your body feels numb or avoidant. Touch feels like an obligation. You breathe easier when they're not around. You keep pieces of yourself hidden. The future feels gray and flat. The relationship runs only on logistics. You daydream about a different version of yourself, one that feels alive again. If any of these feel true, it doesn't mean you're ungrateful. It means your inner truth is speaking. Once the wedding is over, the honeymoon ends, and the guests go home, reality quietly moves in. The first battle isn't with your partner, it's with your own mind. This is cognitive dissonance, the mental pain of holding two impossible truths. I promise to love them forever, and I feel nothing when they touch me. The brain desperately tries to reduce that discomfort by creating defenses. You rationalize. Passion is childish. Chemistry fades. Real love is just duty. For a while, it works. But the body keeps score. The silence then shows up as tightness in the chest, unexplained irritation, emotional numbness, or a low-grade sadness you can't name. The deeper loneliness follows, being married and still completely unseen. You can't share your real self. Conversations become chores. Did you pay the bills? What's for dinner? It all looks fine from the outside, while one person slowly disappears inside. You can't logic your way out of a marriage your nervous system doesn't feel safe in. Year after year of emotional deprivation quietly rewires your nervous system. Some people become chronically anxious and irritable. Others collapse inward. They still function on the outside, but feel nothing inside. This is functional depression. You lose color, curiosity, and desire. So people start coping in three common ways. First, they turn the marriage into a roommate arrangement. Everything works on paper, but the emotional world is in black and white. Second, they displace the need for love elsewhere. Work becomes the new obsession, or children become the emotional center of their universe. Third, they seek substitutes, fantasy lives on social media, old flames, romance novels, emotional affairs, or even darker outlets that give temporary sensation. They're not always bad people. They're often people who are emotionally starved. Why don't they just leave? From the outside, it seems obvious. But psychologically, leaving a loveless marriage is also a collapse of identity. Years of money, family approval, shared friends, and sometimes children have been invested. The brain then plays the sunk cost fallacy. I've already put so much in, I can't let it be for nothing. Add shame. The shame of being ungrateful, of breaking vows, of being the one who couldn't make it work. And the decision gets harder. The biggest chain is the one that says, I'm staying for the kids. Yes, stability matters, but children don't only learn what you say, they learn what your marriage actually feels like. If the home is emotionally cold, they absorb it. They grow up believing love is something you tolerate, not something you feel. Sometimes the child becomes the emotional substitute for the parent. That's called parentification, and the emotional cost is passed down like an inheritance. Every loveless marriage eventually reaches a fork. There are three possible endings. Companionate marriage. Both partners accept the lack of fire and build something else. Friendship, teamwork, routine. It can be stable and even comforting. Silent hell. Resentment slowly turns into contempt. The smallest things start triggering rage. Parallel lives. Two people living under the same roof like strangers. No big fights, just two separate worlds. When respect dies, the silent hell is never far behind. You can survive a marriage without passion. You cannot survive one without respect. If you recognize yourself in this, there are only two real paths, and both take courage. Path A, stay and rebuild. If there is still respect, safety, and goodwill, love can sometimes be relearned. Start with friendship. Have honest, blame-free conversations every week. Rebuild emotional intimacy before expecting desire. Get couples therapy. Path B, leave with dignity. If contempt, numbness, or harm is present, prepare. Build financial safety. Set clear boundaries. Make a co-parenting plan, and give yourself permission to grieve. Because life is short. It's far better to be alone and authentic. If this video felt true, subscribe for more honest psychology stories. Drop a comment below. Do you think people settle out of fear or out of hope? I read every one. Thank you for watching.